How's going, guys? Welcome to the channel. I'm back with another banger for you all. Huge shout out to U.A Academy for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Forest of Death. Sakura sat next to Sasuke after they had just barely escaped from that shinobi from Kusa, or whatever it was, after some of its face had been peeled off due to Sasuke's fire jutsu. Unfortunately, that shinobi had done something to Sasuke, as a strange seal in the form of 3 tomos was placed on the left side of the Uchiha's neck. Please be okay, Sasuke, Sakura said as she tenderly ran a hand through Sasuke's hair while looking out from the hiding spot where she was able to drag her unconscious teammate. And please hurry, Naruto. We need you. The sound of rustling leaves alerted the rosette towards the bushes in front of the hiding spot as Sakura stood up and prayed that it was her lost teammate. Well, look what we have here, said an unfamiliar voice as 3 ninjas from the new Otogekyo walked out of the bushes. Sakura froze, as these were the ninja from before, as she distinctively recognized the Oto ninja wrapped up in bandages. Oh no! In a different part of the forest, Ino and her teammates, Shikamaru, Nara and Choji Akimichi, traveled through the forest as they had just secured the scroll they needed, easily thanks to one of Shikamaru's plans. Choji smiled at their success as he said, "Now all we have to do is..." Yeah. What was that? Ino asked as she looked towards the source of the scream. Probably some poor fool who in too deep of a mess, Shikamaru said as he felt a certain amount of dread from the location. Might be too late to help him. It might be one of our own. Ino argued back as she decided to go towards the source of the scream. We can't let them die there. Seeing out their blonde teammate was rushing into the dense forest, the young Nara let out a sigh as he and Choji followed, considering that they couldn't just leave one of their own to die horribly and be eaten. Once they got close enough and out of sight, none of Team 10 could have imagined the horror that they had saw. What is that? Shikamaru whispered in a quiet panic as to not alert the beast that was attacking a shinobi team. The beast was in the form of a wolf that was even larger than one of the tigers that they had saw some time ago, with what appears to be white armor that had blue stripes all over its body, small wheels behind its paws, and 2 large golden blades that could have easily been mistaken for a pair of wings at its side. The trio couldn't tell what was more intimidating, the blades, the razor-sharp teeth and golden claws it had, or even the pearl blue eyes that were glowing ominously and demandingly. It was a beast straight out of a nightmare. Dear Kami, Choji said as he saw the 2 dead bodies in a puddle of their blood while the wolf beast violently shook the 3rd ninja around in its jaws. What is that thing? I don't know, Shikamaru saw as he managed to get a peek at the hitayatesh of the dead ninjas to find that they were from Amagekure. But I'd rather not stick around to find out, or become its next meal. The wolf beast suddenly let go of the aim ninja, sending him crashing into a tree with a sickening crack as the shinobi fell to the ground, while the dent in the bark just showed how powerful the toss was. We have to help them, Ino called out as she saw the aim ninja holding himself up with one elbow while he had his other hand up against the middle of his back. Ino! Get back here! Shikamaru called out, but his cries were caught on deaf ears as his teammate was suddenly between the wolf beast and the injured shinobi. Ino stood before the wolf beast with her arms spread out in an effort to try and protect the fallen shinobi. She stood her ground, despite her heart beating wildly in her skull, while the beast before her inched closer and closer to her with a mixture of blood and drool dripping from its mouth. The beast's hot breath was now flowing past Ino's face with a cringing, coppery aroma that nearly choked the girl as she slightly flinched from the stench. The wolf beast suddenly let out a mighty roar that seemed to shake even the trees of the surrounding forest, causing Shikamaru, Choji, and the aim ninja to freeze in absolute terror. The sound wasn't anything a wolf could make, as it sounded more like some giant, dragon-like monster, as the roar continued to echo through the trees. I can't move, Shikamaru thought as he was fighting his nerves to go help Ino, but his body was completely tense as the beast's roar echoed ominously to his beating heart. I need to help Ino, before that thing kills her. Once the beast relented in its roar, it then looked over Ino as the girl's hands and arms were visibly shaking despite the bravado she was putting up. You fear me, the wolf beast spoke, surprising everyone that it could talk, and yet you are willing to stand between me and my kill. Swallowing the lump that was choking her, Ino then said, Yes, I am. You do not what I am or whom you are talking to. The wolf beast said with a slight growl in its voice, You do not know of the power of Kendo Garuramon. Kendo? Choji asked as he was able to fight some of his nerves. Garuramon? Guess that explains those swords. Shikamaru said as he was able to make a seal with his hands, ready to jump in at a moment's notice. When I give the signal, jump in and save Ino and that aim ninja. Choji nodded as he then saw Ino reach into her pouch and pull out a few small rice balls before laying them down and backing away from Kendo Garuramon. Ino said as she bowed towards the beast as a sign of respect. I know that they might be to your liking, but I'm offering them for you to let this man go with his life. Kendo Garuramon leaned his head down and sniffed the rice balls before lapping all 3 of them with his tongue and ate them. I thank you for your small offering, Kendo Garuramon said, licking the leftover rice in its teeth. But that will not be enough to spare this man's life after he and his team thought they could turn me into some trophy for their foolish pride. Ino sneered a bit before steeling her nerves as she then said, Then take me. Is she flippin' crazy? Shikamaru roared out as he and Choji rushed out of the bushes where they were hiding before they froze in place through the courtesy of another roar from Kendo Garuramon. The giant wolf then returned his sights on Ino as he said, You are willing to sacrifice your life for another, despite your fear of me telling you to run away. Ino said nothing as she let out a hell breath before tightening her fist as she glared at the beast before her. Kendo Garuramon chuckled as he then said, I must commend your courage. Too bad that shall be your last mistake. With a mighty leap, Kendo Garuramon lunged towards the Yamanaka and was about to bite into her slender body when a giant fist was slammed into the beast's side, launching it a good distance away from Ino. Stay away from her, Choji said as his hand returned to normal size while he rushed towards his teammate. Choji! Ino called out as she saw Kendo Garuramon getting up and shaking its head. Look out! Before the beast could attack, a shadow quickly crept towards Kendo Garuramon before it connected to the beast's shadow. Shadow possession complete. Shikamaru said as he stepped closer to Choji with the beast slowly taking a few steps forward as well. Now to Warchuck. The large blades unfolded and extended from Kendo Garuramon's side before his wheels pressed themselves onto the ground and began to kick the dirt underneath them. With a loud roar, a powerful and threatening aura had caused Shikamaru's shadow to slowly wilt away and return to said ninja. He overpowered my jutsu. Shikamaru thought in pure surprise and fear before he and the rest had to jump away when the beast rushed towards them. What in Kami's name is it? Choji quickly got onto his feet before making a series of quick hand seals. After forming the last seal, Choji's body expanded into the shape of a large boulder of flesh while his arms, legs, and head remained the same. Let's see how you like this. The Akimichi roared out before his head and limbs were tucked into his body. Human boulder. Choji's body then began to roll before charging violently towards Kendo Garuramon. Seeing this, the beast then opened its mouth as it began to glow brightly. Lupin laser! The beast roared out as it fired a few beams of light from its jaws. Ino watched as her enlarged teammates swiftly dodged the first 2 beams before getting clipped by the 3rd beam as it had bounced off his spinning body. Quickly skidding around for another attack, Choji rushed towards Kendo Garuramon while the beast charged towards him, blades brightly gleaming in the light. Howling Star! The beast roared out as he got closer and closer to its opponent. The charging duo got closer and closer to each other before Choji somehow jumped over his opponent and called out, Now Shikamaru! Kendo Garuramon saw that said ninja had appeared in front of him and threw a few kunai with paper seals attached to them. Now! Shikamaru said as he formed a single seal that caused the paper seals to release a brightly light that seemed to have blinded the charging beast. Unable to see, Kendo Garuramon's path faltered as he sped by Shikamaru, just barely missing him with one of his golden blades, before crashing against a few trees. Damn, that was close! Shikamaru saw as he took a quick look at some of the trees before rushing towards his teammates. Is everyone alright? I think so, Ino said as she saw Choji, back to his normal size, approaching them. How about you, Choji? My shoulder hurts from getting hit by that thing's attack, Choji said as he held his injured shoulder as it was burning under his hand. It kinda burns and stings at the same time. Be lucky that you didn't get sliced, Shikamaru said as he pointed to some of the trees that he saw as they were missing some large chunks of their trunks. if those blades that Kendo Garurumon has could do that to thick trees like that, then imagine what could happen to the human body. Banishing the thought of the possible damage, Ano then turned towards the fallen AIM ninja and asked, "Are you alright?" I don't know," he answered as he still held his back with a pained look on his face. "I think my back's broken, can't feel my legs." "What exactly is that thing?" Choji asked as he kept his attention on the stunned beast. "You seriously don't know what that thing is?" The AIM ninja asked in pained surprise. "Kind of thought you'd know since this is Konoha's Forest of Death. We saw it attack some of the other animals and genin teams, but the weird thing about it is that my team and I had saw it looking through some of the dead bodies and collected the scrolls that the proctors had given everyone." "What would something like that want with our scrolls?" Ino asked before she saw her teammates tense up. "We might have to ask it," Shikamaru said as his focus hardened, seeing that Kendo Garurumon had regained its senses and was now glaring towards them. "'Cause here it comes." A chuckle was heard from the fallen ninja as he then said, "I fear that this might be our last, so if you have any regrets, might as well say them now." Everyone was quiet until Ino let out a sigh and said, "Just one. I wish I could have been nicer to Naruto. Maybe even tell him that I did find him slightly more charming than Sasuke, as that blonde idiot always seemed to find a way to be happy despite all that is thrown at him." As Kendo Garurumon slowly approached them, Shikamaru chuckled to himself as he thought, "Ino having a thing for Konoha's loudest ninja. Now I've heard everything. Too bad Naruto will never know." With Sakura, she had been scuffed up pretty badly after going up against the Oto ninja that was firing bursts of wind from his palms. She escaped from the Kunoichi by cutting off most of her own pink hair when the Oto ninja had a hold of it. But despite her best efforts, Sakura knew that she couldn't last long as Lee laid unconscious after what the mummy-like ninja had done to him. "Sasuke-kun, Naruto," Sakura thought as her injuries and fatigue were catching up to her, I'm sorry that I couldn't be stronger. I take it you three are responsible for Lee's absence," said a new voice as Sakura looked up to find Niji and Tenten on a branch in the tree where Sasuke was hidden. "Guess we should jump in and help our own as destiny had brought us here." Niji, Tenten thought as her teammate was always so preachy about destiny and fate. How am I not insane because of my own teammates? Niji's veins sun pulsed near his eyes as he then said, "I hope you are ready to face the might of the Hyuga mindscape." Sasuke stood in a brightly lit area as he soon saw his younger self crying as he held his face. "Why?" the younger Sasuke asked as tears continued to flow from his eyes. "Why wasn't I stronger? Why did they have to die? Why did Itachi kill them?" "No!" the older Sasuke thought as he covered his ears in vain. "Not this. Anything but this." "I can give you what you want," the younger Sasuke said with an unfamiliar voice as his face now had a tear in it to reveal a similar face that was under the Kusa ninjas from before. "Sasuke-kun." A painful pulse erupted from the older Sasuke's neck as said Uchiha fell to his knees and clutched the source of his pain. Sasuke's body soon felt like it was on fire as more pain shot out from his neck. "Do you feel that, Sasuke-kun?" the younger Sasuke asked with a smirk on his torn face. "That is the power that I, Orochimaru, can grant you. Power that will allow you to avenge your clan and kill Itachi Uchiha." Before another word was said, a familiar hand was seen being stabbed through the younger Sasuke's body as the smaller boy was lifted into the air. "I'm sorry," Ribenji said as his eyes began to glow brightly, "but I won't let you steal something that isn't yours." In a bright light, the younger Sasuke was suddenly destroyed as the light had atomized him with black wisps swirling around in Ribenji's now open palm before letting his dissipate into nothingness. Walking up to the fallen Sasuke, the young boy placed a hand on the Uchiha's neck where the mark was and said, "Allow me to purify your body from that vile thing's presence." A wave of relief ran through Sasuke's body as his body and neck wasn't in pain anymore. "There," Ribenji said with a happy tone in his voice, "now I can give you a gift." Sasuke looked up to see the angel-like boy holding a small statue of what appears to be a midnight black demon with multiple eyes on its body save for where they should be in the two horned heads. "What?" Sasuke asked as he studied the statue to find that it was radiating darkness and power. "What is that?" "This is your gift, my champion," Ribenji answered with a kind smile on his face. "I have chosen you, Sasuke Uchiha, to wield this power similar to the ones you have met before. Getting the message, Sasuke then said, "You mean that this is the same as their power?" Ribenji nodded as his smile faded and he said, "Yes. I will tell you my tale on a later date, but your friend appears to be in trouble. Use my gift and show them that you are the true champion of darkness." Sasuke nodded as the demonic statue approached him before fusing with his body. Forest of Death. Niji was about to begin his assault when a powerful and dark aura erupted from the opening in the tree. What is this? The Hyuga thought in surprise as he studied this new energy. It's so powerful. Even more so than a genin fresh from the academy could produce. Everyone looked to find a figure with long, golden blonde hair wearing demonic-looking armor that had eyes on his shoulders, knees, feet, and at the center of his chest, while he had slender, demonic skulls instead of hands. What is he? Tenten asked as she felt a cold sweat from the sight of this new warrior alone. It can't be. Sakura said as there was only one person who was in that tree, Sasuke. Sasuke looked over his new body as he could feel power coursing through every fiber of his being. So this is the power that he told me about. Sasuke said before he looked at his teammate. Who did this to you, Sakura? Summoning his nerve, the spiky-haired Oto ninja proudly pointed a thumb to himself and said, "It was me and I am not afraid of some creep like you." "Easy there, Zaku," said the mummified Oto ninja. "Something about him isn't right. His power, it feels off." "Whatever," the now identified Zaku said with an arrogant smirk on his face. "I can beat this freak as he's just a weak and pathetic genin. So you're the one," Sasuke said as he continued to stare down the Oto ninjas. "Then prepare yourself as you shall face the power of darkness incarnate, Duskmon." With that declaration, Duskmon charged towards Zaku as a blood-red blade jutted out from the slender skull's mouth while the Oto ninja just aimed the hollowed air tubes that were in his palms at his opponent. "You really must be stupid for charging right towards me without a plan," Zaku said with a manic smile on his face, decapitating airwaves. A large blast of air erupted from the Oto ninja's palms and were heading towards Duskmon, who still kept charging towards Zaku. "Pathetic," the demonic warrior said as his blade began to glow a deathly red color, lunar plasma. With a swing of the glowing blade, a curved beam of dark red energy was launched from Duskman's sword and sliced clear through the air blasts, allowing the demonic warrior to get closer. "Get out of the way," the Every Kunoichi said as she and her teammates dodged the attack before witnessing the beam violently slicing the bark off of the nearby trees. "It just tore the bark right off," the mummified ninja thought as he watched Zaku send another blast of air towards Duskmon, only for said person to use the same attack to counter it. What kind of power did Lord Orochimaru give him? "Don't think your fancy sword will hold me off forever," Zaku confidently roared out until he saw the eyes on Duskman's body look right at him. "I have much more than just my blade," Duskmon said as he aimed the other slender skull at Zaku with a dark red light glowing from it, and the eyes on his body, deadly gaze. A series of dark red beams shot out from the skull and pupils before each of them had hit their target dead on. Zaku had managed to block them, but his arms were burning from the raw energy that they were exposed to while blood was seeping from the wounds. "I also have my jutsus if you haven't forgotten," Duskmon roared out as he launched multiple plumes of fire towards the Oto ninja. "Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu." Zaku smirked as he aimed his palm towards the plumes of fire and shot out a burst of air that had put them out to reveal Shuriken. The Oto ninja gasped out before dodging the metal stars. "How did he even throw them? Wouldn't you like to know?" Duskmon said as he was suddenly behind Zaku as this sword had retreated back into the skull. Before Zaku could move, the demonic warrior behind him suddenly grabbed his arms with the jagged teeth of his skulls. Each of the fangs dug themselves into the flesh of the Oto ninja's arms as a slight chuckle was heard from Duskmon. "You seem to favor these arms of yours," Duskmon said as he tightened his grip on Zaku's arms. "Let's see how you fight without them." Crunch! Eaiga! Zaku screamed out as his arms were suddenly broken from the pressure that was applied to them. Sakura watched in horror at what Duskmon was doing as her thoughts were running so fast through her skull. What is this power Sasuke has? Why is it familiar to the power that Agumon and his friends have? Why would Sasuke fight like this? Where's Naruto? Just what is going on with Sasuke? Not finding an answer to her questions, Sakura silently prayed for any form of miracle to just get this nightmare over with. With Team 10, the trio were about to try and fight off Kendo Garuramon until said beast tilted his head towards a different direction and growled. "What's going on?" Choji asked as Shikamaru quickly used his jutsu to latch his own shadow with Kendo Garuramon's. "Whatever had happened had bought us a slight advantage," Shikamaru said as he applied some extra chakra as to keep his grip on the beast. The sound of dirt getting kicked up had alerted the group as Kendo Garuramon began charging towards them, before turning around towards where he was looking before. "How is he even moving after Shikamaru had captured him?" Ino asked in confusion. Before the Nara could answer, he realized his mistake too late as he was suddenly dragged through the forest due to his shadow being connected to Kendo Garuramon's. "Shikamaru!" Choji called out as he and Ino quickly followed their screaming and cursing teammate through the forest, leaving the AIM ninja all alone. Letting out a sigh, the AIM ninja knew that he couldn't go on as he pulled out the Earth Scroll his team was given and see just what was so special about it, and its sister scroll. In the area where Duskmon continued to crush Zaku's arms, everyone watched in horror at what was happening until the demonic warrior had let go of the Oto ninja's arms in favor of grabbing Zaku's head with one of the demonic skulls. "How about I end your misery right now?" Duskmon asked until a new sound had drawn his attention. Everyone looked to see a large wolf in white armor with large golden blades on its sides charge through the forest before turning itself to face Duskmon by using the wheels that were attached to the back of its paws. "Whoa!" Tenten said in shock at the beast before her. "What is that thing and how does it have swords like those ones?" The sound of rustling alerted everyone to a nearby bush and they were ready for whatever new beast might come out, at least until Shikamaru rolled out of the bush, covered in scraps, dirt, and leaves. "That is the last time I tried to tame a wild animal with my shadow," Shikamaru said as he slowly got up and dusted himself off while Choji and Ino rushed to his side. "At least I got myself free from Kendo Garuramon." The sound of growling had alerted Team 10 to find Duskmon standing before them, with Zaku trying to pry the demonic skull off his face. "Ino!" Sakura cried out as she rushed towards the blonde. "You won't believe how glad I am to see you. What's going on here?" Choji asked as he couldn't keep his eyes off Duskmon. "Who's that?" "Believe it or not, that's Sasuke," Sakura said, getting a shocked look from Team 10. Whatever that shinobi we had faced before had done to him had given him some incredible, yet dark power. "He calls himself Duskmon." "Duskmon?" Shikamaru said as he saw Kendo Garuramon keeping his focus on the demonic warrior. "Well, meet Kendo Garuramon. We stumbled upon him brutally attacking another genin team before targeting Ino after she tried to save some unlucky fool." Sakura looked to see Kendo Garuramon, and had a familiar feeling at seeing the giant wolf. "This power," the Rosette said as she steeled herself while keeping her focus on the great beast. "It's just like burning Greyman's." "You mean this thing's just like that dragon you saw in Nami?" Ino asked in shock before receiving a nod from Sakura. "Dear Kami." "So," Duskmon said as he stared down Kendo Garuramon, "you wish to be my next opponent?" The demonic warrior suddenly tossed Zaku off to the side as the other two Oto ninjas had caught their injured teammate. "I was getting bored with that ragdoll anyway," Duskmon said as he crossed his arms while blood-red blades erupted from the two demonic skulls on his arms. "Let's see if you are worthy enough to face the might of an Uchiha." Kanahigakure Hospital. The Sandaime walked through the halls of the hospital after receiving news from one of his chunin about a badly injured genin they had gotten from the Forest of Death. Normally, any of the genin who had opened either or both scrolls early would have just been knocked out before taken out of that dreadful forest. "What's the boy's status?" Hiruzen asked after one of the doctors approached him. "From what we have seen," the doctor said as he looked through the pages attached to the clipboard in his hands, "the patient had suffered multiple lacerations, puncture wounds that actually pierce right into the bone. Both shoulder blades have been broken, torn muscles, and even a severed spine. The evidence here actually contradicts an attack by a wolf as none of the wolves Mitarashi-san had listed fit the description." "What of his teammates?" the Sandaime asked as he was told that the patient's teammates were dead. "From what we've gathered from the corpses," the doctor began after pulling out two different clipboards and handed them to the elderly man, the damages done on the bodies do show signs of the deaths being that of an animal attack, as the bite marks we have recorded are similar to that of any canine, if the shape and curvature are any proof, but the bodies also showed that they have been hit by a fire jutsu of sorts and cut with a sword. We have suspicions that this might have been the cause of another team, but the patient keeps saying that it was a giant white wolf with golden swords the size of the famed Kabikurabocho. After looking through the data and pictures provided, the Sandame then asked, "Did you have Kunoichi go through a psyche evaluation with him?" "We did," the doctor said with a nod, and Kunoichi is going through the young man's mind as we speak. Right at that moment, Kunoichi had appeared from around the corner and said, "Ah, Sandame-sama, I was about to summon you in order to inform you of what I had gathered from the patient." "Go ahead and speak," Hiruzen ordered, knowing that whatever information they could get might be vital. Kunoichi nodded as he began. "When I had entered Mako Iwatori's mind, I had gone through his memories from the start of the second exam. It was just him and his team going through the forest of death after discovering that the team they had taken out had the same scroll that they did until they heard the sound of a large animal. They went to investigate to indeed find the very wolf that is described before one of them decided to try their chances against the beast. It proved to be a foolish mistake, as the beast was more than they could handle, as the beast had easily gained the upper hand with the use of its enhanced mobility in conjunction with those swords and killed Mako's teammates before my daughter and her teammates stopped Kendo Garurumon, as the beast calls itself. But I have to wonder." The Yamanaka carefully glanced at the doctor as he then asked, "What would a beast like Kendo Garurumon be doing in the forest of death? Should we send in a team to detain it?" "That would be a good idea," the Sandame said as he let out a regretful sigh. "But if we were to do anything at this moment, not only would we risk everyone's lives should Orochimaru keep good on his threat, but how would the other villages react if we were to save any of our own ninja after theirs had signed a waiver? So we risk everyone's lives whether or not we do anything about this," Kunoichi said as he pondered what would be worse, mass murder of Chunin hopefuls or political backlash. After taking a careful look around the area, Kunoichi carefully asked, "Do you think that Kendo Garurumon could be?" "Quite possible," Hiruzen said as he felt even more older than he actually was, "but I wouldn't think that they would let him openly use this power unless it was absolutely necessary." Letting out another sigh, the Sandame said, "I just hope that everything will be alright. Kami forbid Orochimaru gaining wind of this and using this against us." Kunoichi looked out the window as he allowed his mind to drift off to his only daughter. "Please be careful, Ino." Forest of Death. Sparks flew as the surrounding teams watched Duskmon and Kendo Garurumon clash violently, each side wanting to take down the other. "You're going to have to do better than that if you wish to defeat me," Duskmon called out as both of his blades began to glow ominously. Lunar Plasma. Duskmon swung his swords as two curved beams were launched towards his opponent, only to see the beast before him to use his enhanced mobility to swiftly avoid the attack. Lupin Laser! Kendo Garurumon roared out as he launched a few beams of white light from his mouth, only for the demonic warrior to block the full attack after one of the beams hit him. After blocking the attack, Duskmon then charged towards the beast with his blades ready to taste the blood of his foe. Howling Star! The beast roared out once more as he sped towards his charging foe with his own blades ready for the attack. Seeing this, Duskmon quickly jumped into the air to avoid the attack while managing to slash Kendo Garurumon's armored back with one of his blades. He landed on his feet and quickly turned around to see the beast's mouth glowing. "Lupin Laser!" The beast growled out as he launched a powerful beam at the demonic warrior, who didn't have enough time to avoid the attack as the full force of said attack had launched him into a nearby tree. "Sasuke!" Sakura cried out as she was about to rush out towards Duskmon before feeling Shikamaru grab her shoulder. "What do you think you're doing?" the young Nara said as the Rosette looked at him. "We saw first-handed just how dangerous something like Kendo Garurumon is, and I also doubt that Duskmon would be in a mercy-giving mood if we interfere. But that's still Sasuke!" Sakura cried out desperately as multiple red beams shot out from Duskmon's multiple eyes, with only a couple of them hitting Kendo Garurumon. The beast was still standing after taking the attack as he looked at Duskmon with a threatening growl. "So you want some more?" Duskmon said as he stood on his feet, blades ready for the attack. "I'll be glad to show you the full might of the Uchiha." The demonic warrior then charged straight towards his opponent, while swiftly dodging the beams of light that were launched at him. This power feel amazing, Sasuke thought as he had gotten close enough to slash at Kendo Garuruman's front left leg before having to dodge one of the massive blades the beast had. To think that this kind of power was just being wasted by those weak fools. Seeing that he had missed, Kendo Garuruman quickly spun around and struck Duskmon with his armored tail. Not seeing the attack, Duskmon ended up taking a powerful hit to his face before the force caused him to tumble back a few yards. Quickly bouncing onto his feet, Duskmon focused his eyes on the beast and said, "Deadly gaze." Red beams flew from the eyes on Duskman's body, but missed as Kendo Garuruman quickly jumped to the side before the great beast rushed towards the demonic warrior. "Move!" Shikamaru roared out as he, his teammates, and Sakura had to jump to the side to avoid the attack as the beams tore through the trees and shrubbery. "Holy hell!" said a new voice as everyone, save for the two combating forces, looked up to see Kiba and Akamaru jumped from a branch and landed near the trunk of a tree with Hinata and Shino following. "What was that?" Using her Byakugan, Hinata looked at the two combatants and said, "Their chakra is nothing like I've seen. The man in dark armor's chakra is black with a tone of pure darkness behind it, while the wolf's, it's similar to Burning Grayman's." "You mean that wolf's power is just as strong as that dragon back in Nami?" Kiba roared out as he saw Kendo Garuruman lunge towards Duskmon, ready to bite the demonic warrior's shoulder. "We must stop them," Shino ordered out as his beetles began to swarm dangerously around his hands. "You shall not interfere with my battle." Duskmon roared out as he launched a curved beam of reed energy towards them, lunar plasma. Team 8 froze in place as they had no means of escaping the attack, but were surprised when they saw Kendo Garuruman quickly sped in between them and that attack. "Roreya!" The beast roared out as the attack connected on his side, causing it to falter its stance a bit before turning to face Duskmon. "I see that you have managed some control over this new form, Naruto-san," Shino said as he watched Kendo Garuruman shoot out a few beams of light from his mouth. "But you're acting more wildly than before, possessed or not." Duskmon quickly avoided a couple of the beams before one had hit him dead center in the chest. "Your fight is with me, you disgusting creature," Kendo Garuruman growled out before speeding towards the fallen warrior and clamping down on Duskmon with his teeth. Everyone watched as the giant wolf shook Duskmon around violently before tossing the demonic warrior into a nearby tree, causing a large chunk of bark to break apart from the tree due to the sheer force applied. "Fire style, fireball jutsu." Duskmon roared out as he aimed one of the demonic skulls on his arm and launched a ball of fire towards Kendo Garuruman. "Lupin laser." Kendo Garuruman roared out as he launched a beam towards the fireball, causing a powerful explosion to erupt when the two attacks collided into each other. Using the dust to his advantage, Duskmon jumped through with a blade ready to slice his opponent, but Kendo Garuruman quickly blocked the attack with one of his golden blades. The two combatants pushed against each other's blades in a fierce competition of strength, either one of them wanting to back down and give their opponent the upper hand. Seeing an opening, Duskmon then decided to kick Kendo Garuruman underneath his jaw. The beast was forced to relent from the sudden strike, allowing the demonic warrior to give Kendo Garuruman a nasty gash on his shoulder and side with a slice of his blood-red blade. "Kendo Garuruman!" Choji cried out as blood began to pour out from the new injury and staining the dirt below. "That was a cheap shot." Kiba growled out at what Duskmon had done to the giant wolf. Shino studied the two combatants as they fought, and could see that although injured, Kendo Garuruman wouldn't back down so easily, while Duskmon was showing signs of fatigue. Whoever the demonic warrior was clearly wasn't used to that power, and was wearing themselves out, but refused to back down due to their pride. But how long could Naruto-san last? Shino thought as the fresh injury Kendo Garuruman had looked pretty serious with not only the amount of blood pouring from it, but how the wolf had begun to slow down, even with the enhanced mobility through the wheels it possessed. "This battle is just about over," Duskmon said as he quickly rushed towards Kendo Garuruman and going into a slide to avoid one of the beast's large blades, fire style, fireball jutsu. Everyone watched in shock as Kendo Garuruman ended up taking a fireball right in the face at point-blank range, causing the beast serious injury as he tried to shake the intense heat and burning sensation off of his face. That bastard! Kiba roared out in anger and was about to jump in and stop the two, but surprisingly it was Shino who jumped in, beetles ready for the attack. Shino! Hinata cried out, fearing her teammate's life as the Aburame had now exposed himself for both Duskmon and Kendogaruramon. This battle has gone long enough, Shino said as he got into a stance of his own. Your fight is with me now. If you want to die that badly then, Duskmon said as his attention was turned towards Shino, then I'll gladly end your life right now. Kendogaruramon was about to move in for another attack until Mind Transfer Jutsu, Ino called out, using one of her clan's jutsus, before passing out in Shikamaru's and Choji's arms. The beast suddenly froze in place before falling onto its side. I thank you, Ino, Shino silently thought to himself, glad that he didn't have to fight a possessed Naruto while holding off Duskmon as well. But please be careful, as who knows what that particular beast spirit is doing to Naruto-san's mind. Mindscape. Ino was standing inside the mindscape and opened her eyes to find herself inside of a sewer. EW. Ino said as she was disgusted by how the water was up to her ankles. Never thought an animal's mind could be like this. With each step causing the water to slightly splash around, Ino traveled through the place in hopes of finding a way to control this beast. It was different than the few animals she had possessed a few times, as each time was easier since she could override basic animal instinct. That was when Ino had realized something. This wasn't the mind of a normal animal. Could Kendogaruramon be a summon? Ino said to herself as she traveled deeper into the sewer-like mindscape. If so, then who could have summoned him? A loud roar was heard from one of the hallways, causing Ino to hug herself one of the walls adjacent of the hallway. She quietly and quickly edged herself towards the hallway just enough to peek around the corner to find a confusing sight. A forest? Ino thought as she entered the strange forest that seemed to have slightly merged with the sewer. This is quite the mind to be like this. The sudden bellowing roar vibrated throughout the trees had caused Ino to instinctively jump into a nearby tree before the sound of shifting grass alerted the Yamanaka of a new presence. Must be Kendogaruramon, Ino thought to herself as she waited as she saw a large shadow traveling by the trees until Ino got another shock to her eyes. She forced herself to be quiet as there stood Naruto. But he was far more different than when she had last saw him. Naruto now had powerful muscles that not only twitched with fearful power, but had even made him nearly twice the size of Asuma. This new Naruto was also only wearing dark blue pants that were torn off at the knees, while white fur adorned with light blue stripes covered his body with the exception of his chest and a small fraction of his slightly elongated face. On his back were two golden blades that were exactly like Kendogaruramon's. Where are you? Naruto roared out, revealing sharpened teeth that were housed in his mouth, as he grabbed one of the golden swords and swung it with wild might. I'll tear this mind to shreds if I have to. How did Naruto get in here? Ino thought as she carefully studied the rampaging Naruto. And what happened to him? Help me! Ino turned behind her as a raspy voice had caught her attention before a bright light had alerted her to Naruto, as he had suddenly launched a beam of light near her direction. I know you're nearby. Naruto roared out through the forest. I'll never let you near him. Not wanting to be found, Ino swiftly and quietly dashed through the trees towards the direction of the raspy voice was last heard. What's going on here? Ino asked herself as she charged as quickly as she could, hoping that Naruto hadn't found her, even if he could. But something was familiar about how Naruto looked. The blades were easily Kendogaruramon's and the fur was similar to said beast. It looked like if Naruto and Kendogaruramon had. That's it, Ino said with sudden realization. That wasn't just Naruto, but also Kendogaruramon. But why would a beast like Kendogaruramon would fuse with Naruto? Help me! The raspy voice weakly called out, drawing Ino towards the right as a white light could be seen in the distance. The Yamanaka quickly headed towards the light to find Naruto. Ino spat out in surprise as she saw Naruto, looking the same as she had always remembered him, tied up to a tree by chains of brilliant white light, but I thought. Looking at the Yamanaka with slight fear, Naruto then said, Listen, Ino, I need your help. I need to break out of these chains so that I can regain control of my body. What do you mean your body? I thought this was Kendo Garuruman's? Ino asked. We don't have time for questions. Naruto yelled with urgency. I have to break out before. A bright light zipped by the tree Naruto was attached to and revealed the Kendo Garuruman/Naruto hybrid stepping into the area. I finally found you, the wolf-like Naruto said with a sneer on his face, and just in time to keep you from helping him wrench control from me. Freaked out about seeing two different Narutos, Ino looked at both Narutos and asked, will someone seriously tell me just what the hell is going on here? I'll tell you since this will be your last sight. Beast Naruto said as he now had both swords in each hand. We are in the mind of Naruto Uzumaki, and with the power that he was given, this boy foolishly thought that he could use this power to his own disposal after freeing himself from being a snake's meal. But thanks to that Kusa shinobi, I, Kendo Garuruman, have been given a chance to fully show this pathetic pup the true power of light. Ino had let the information sink in until she looked at the Naruto chained to the tree and said, You owe me an explanation after this. That is if I get control again. Naruto said as he started to yank on the chains with what might he could gather. Oh no you don't! Kendo Garuruman roared out as he charged towards Naruto with both blades crossed. I'll just kill you and take control of this body myself. Thinking quickly, Ino quickly charged towards Kendo Garuruman and gave the beast hybrid a kick to his midsection that merely caused him to jump back a few feet, while the Yamanaka jumped on one leg and held her throbbing ankle. Talk about having rock-hard abs, Ino said as she placed her foot on the ground after the pain subsided. Admire his body later. Naruto called out as he continued to struggle against the chains. I need help now. Alright. Ino said as she was about to help Naruto until a beam of light zipped by her and barely missing Naruto as some of the tree was burned off. Damn it! Ino thought as she was defenseless when she used her clan's jutsus while Kendo Garuruman was still just as powerful as he was outside of Naruto's mind. How can I fight him like this? Roar! Another roar echoed through the woods as a new figure dropped in from the sky. Like Kendo Garuruman, this figure also looked like Naruto and was twice the size of Asuma. However, this Naruto had reptilian features with red scales shining all over his body while a long tail was seen from behind this Naruto and orange wings moved about, giving them the appearance of being made out of fire, were attached to his back along with his sharpened claw-like hands. This Naruto had triangular turrets attached to his forearms that seemed to spin on their own. You've had your time, Kendo Garuruman. This new Naruto said with a bellowing voice, but I'll show you that I, Burning Greymon, deserves the right to control this vessel. The two monstrous Narutos then began to clash with each other violently as fire and light seemed to dance around the forest, and a frighteningly beautiful dance. Now's our chance! Naruto called out, grabbing Ino's attention. We have to hurry before the others get here. Others! Ino cried out in pure shock. How can a person like you have multiple personalities like those two? Freedom first, questions later. Naruto barked out as he pulled against the chains with all his might. Ino quickly grabbed a chain and began to pull on it with as much power as she could muster, but the chains were too strong. This isn't working, Ino said as Kendo Garuruman and Burning Greymon continued their clash as thunder-like booms echoed each time they clashed. I need something to cut it with. Like what? Naruto asked as he continued his struggle. I don't have any weapons. Then think of something I can use to cut the chains. Ino countered before she had to duck away to the side as flames were flying about. This is your mind, so you cannot control it however you like. Panicked, Naruto tried to think of something that can help Ino set him free, but he didn't know what could work. A kunai wouldn't be sharp enough to. Poof! Ino looked to see a kunai knife falling in front of the tree that Naruto was chained to. Acting quickly, the Yamanaka dove near the tree and grabbed the kunai and raised it high into the air before stabbing it into a chain link. Clink! Seeing that the chain wasn't cut, Ino tried to stab the chain again before she tried to saw it. What the hell, Naruto? Ino growled out as she looked at the kunai. Why isn't this cutting? I was trying to think of something that could cut this, and I'm sure that a simple kunai knife wouldn't do the job. Naruto said with a panicked look on his face, if you hadn't noticed, I'm trying to regain control of my body while those two are fighting each other for control over my body. Taking a couple of quick, deep breaths, Ino looked at Naruto and said, This is your mind, Naruto, and you can control anything as you are the dominant personality. At least I think you are. You can make anything. Even make this kunai sharp enough to cut this chain without any effort. Taking the Yamanaka's words in, Naruto began to focus on something that would work on the chains. Ino took a look behind her shoulders to find different pairs of glowing eyes before she returned her attention to her fellow blonde and said, "Not meaning to rush you, but can you please hurry up?" Poof! Seeing a battle axe appearing out of thin air, Ino grabbed the handle with both hands and lifted the weapon as she twisted her body. With a mighty swing, Ino heard the chain move a bit before looking to see that the axe she was provided was doing some damage to it. She continued to chop at the chains as they were being chipped away with each strike. "You couldn't think of anything sharper?" Ino asked as she let the axe blade touch the ground, worn out from swinging the heavy weapon. "This chain was made out of Kendo Garuramon's own power," Naruto answered as said beast was still clashing with his opponent. "It'll have to do." Groaning at the answer, Ino gave the axe a mighty heave before slamming it into the chain. Chink! After removing the axe, Ino smiled in victory to see that the chain link she had struck had actually broke enough to be maneuvered to disconnect from the rest. "All right," Ino said as she spun the axe in her hands and pulled the weapon back. "Just one more hit should do the trick." The Yamanaka gave the weapon a mighty last swing that would have destroyed. "Piting! Ga!" Ino cried out as the axe was blasted out of her hands by a beam of light through the courtesy of Kendo Garuramon, who was now charging towards her with burning Greymon following him. "I will not lose to the likes of some pathetic girl." Kendo Garuramon roared out as he grabbed one of his large blades and swung it towards Ino, but missed as the Yamanaka quickly jumped away in time. "Especially to one who is as weak as you are." Burning Greymon growled out as he aimed his turrets towards Ino. "Pyro barrage." The Yamanaka quickly took cover behind a tree while glancing over to find Kendo Garuramon approaching Naruto. The beast hybrid held a hand out as a bright light flew from his clawed hand and made contact with the broken chain link. "He's repairing it," Ino thought as she saw the broken chain link regenerating in the light it was enveloped with. "I need to break Naruto free. But how can I do that if Kendo Garuramon can repair it if it gets damaged?" A new thought entered Ino's mind as that thought turned into a plan. Time to fight fire with fire, Ino thought as she jumped away and dodged the many small beams of fire as Burning Greymon kept up with his attack. The Yamanaka quickly took cover behind one tree after another while maneuvering towards where Kendo Garuramon was. "Hey, Kendo Garuramon!" Ino called out as she received a threatening glare from the beast hybrid, before countering by holding one eye open and sticking her tongue out in a taunting manner. "Bet you can't hit me. You dare mock me!" Kendo Garuramon growled out in anger as his mouth began to glow. "I shall destroy you." Lupin laser! Ino jumped away in time for the beam of light to miss her before having to take cover as Burning Greymon launched another barrage of flames from his turrets. "I shall destroy both you and the Hyuga girl!" The draconic hybrid bellowed out as he kept his attack going. "You both wish to be this foolish mortal's mate, but you both are too weak to even come to terms with your desires." "Wait a minute!" Naruto said in surprise. "Ino's got a crush on me as well as Hinata." Guess he never knew about Hinata, Ino thought as she jumped to a different tree that was right next to the tree Naruto was chained to. "Over here, dog breath!" Ino called out as she saw Kendo Garuramon charging another beam in his mouth. "Lupin laser!" The beast hybrid roared out as he launched a powerful beam of light from his mouth. Ino smirked in victory as she jumped away in time for the beam of light to directly hit the chains that held Naruto against the tree, with enough force to completely break them. "No!" Kendo Garuramon roared out in anger as he looked at Ino. "You tricked me." Before another move was made, a new figure appeared in the form of a man that was on equal height with the trees, wearing snow-white armor, wielding two large, golden curved blades, while the headgear he had looked like it was made out of a white wolf's face that hid all but his mouth and the whitish blonde hair that could be seen underneath. "That is enough!" the man roared out with authority as he stared down both hybrids with his ruby-red eyes. To Ino's surprise, both Naruto hybrids backed away a bit before vanishing into the shadows within the forest. "Okamiji-san!" Naruto cheered as he slowly got to his feet as the warrior turned to face both blondes. "Am I ever glad to see you?" "I am glad as well," the warrior said with a gruff, yet noble tone in his voice, but I am a bit disappointed at how careless you were with your fight against that shinobi. You had dropped your guard too soon, allowing her to place that seal on you. Sorry," Naruto said as it stung him to see the look of disappointment on the armored man's face. "Now hold on," Ino said as she caught the man's attention. "I'm sure that Naruto didn't mean to get jumped by Kendo Garuramon, but he's only just a genin." "While you are right," the armored warrior admitted before letting out a sigh. "But however, the new seal that was placed on him had caused the power we granted him to go out of control, allowing Kendo Garuramon to possess him and kill some of the ninja that are taking the exams as well." Seeing the haunted look on the Naruto's face, Ino then said, "What if I erase those memories, as I'm sure that Naruto couldn't live with the fact that he had killed someone? I should know, as my first kill wasn't pleasant to go through." "Don't," Naruto said, getting a surprised look from Ino. "I want to keep them, as a reminder as to what will happen if I take the powers I have too lightly. Erasing the memory will just cause me to make the same arrogant mistake, but with even worse consequences." The Yamanaka was speechless, as she had never seen Naruto, the biggest goofball ninja in Konoha, look or act so mature. "It's time for you both to exit the mind," the armored warrior said as he sheathed both blades behind his back. "Duskmon is still out there fighting your friend, Shino. I need to stop Duskmon," Naruto said before he fell onto one knee, weakened by his ordeal. "Your body has lost a lot of energy," the warrior said as he helped the small boy onto his feet, "but I shall lend you a portion of mine to last long enough to end the battle. It won't be much, but it'll be enough." "Thanks," Naruto said with a smile on his face as he soon vanished, leaving just Ino and the armored warrior. "You have my thanks, Ino Yamanaka," the warrior said as he grabbed said girl's attention, "but you also have the thanks of the other ancient warriors for your deeds." Blushing a bit from the comment, Ino said, "I was just trying to help, but I do have a question that you might answer." Getting a nod from the warrior, Ino then asked, How did Naruto come across this power?" The warrior was silent for a moment before he said, "I cannot reveal much, as Naruto, and Naruto alone, can reveal the full answer to your question. But I will reveal that my comrades and I had saw a small child in need of those that he can call friends as well as family." Although she wanted the full answer, Ino nodded in respect as Naruto was going to explain some things. "I'd better get going," Ino said nervously as she was wondering what had happened outside Naruto's mind. "But thank you for answering my question, Ancient Garuramon." The warrior answered as he sensed Ino's hidden question, "I bid you a safe journey, young child." Ino smiled a bit before she had vanished after making a seal with her hands. "Thank you," Ancient Garuramon said with a confident smile on his face, "for being there." Forest of Death. Shino had kept his focus on Duskmon after dodging a blade and seeing that Ino was successful in entering Kendo Garuramon's mind. One less opponent for him to deal with. Deadly Gaze. Duskmon roared out as red beams shot from the eyes on his body and hit Shino directly. However, Shino's body suddenly turned into small beetles as the Aburame suddenly appeared behind the demonic warrior. Duskmon swung a blade and bisected his opponent, but Shino's body was turned into another swarm of beetles. "Fight me, you coward!" Duskmon roared out in anger before seeing a swarm of beetles flying towards him. Quickly firing more beams, the demonic warrior had dispersed the swarm to see Shino standing before him. "Are you just another swarm of pathetic beetles?" Duskmon asked with a threatening aura. "If so, then I can just find someone else who would be worthy enough to fight me." Shino remained silent for a brief moment until he then said, "I have already won." "What do you mean?" the demonic warrior shouted as his body began to heave from fatigue. "My beetles specifically feed on chakra," the Aburame coolly said as he pushed his sunglasses up, "and by attacking my insect clones, not only have you trapped yourself with my beetles crawling around waiting my next command, but you have also allowed some of the beetles to gain access underneath your armor and feed off of your chakra." Letting out a growl, Duskmon swung both blades in a circle as he called out, "Lunar Plasma." The blades soon released blood-red beams that began to spin around Duskmon, destroying all of the beetles surrounding him before the demonic warrior then charged towards Shino, who was unprepared due to the amount of speed and energy that Duskmon had. "Time to end this," Duskmon said as he was about to bisect the Aburame before him until clash. "I believe we should start our match again where we had left off." said a familiar voice as everyone saw Lobomon holding off Duskman's blade with his own beam sword. Lobomon! Sakura cheered out after seeing said warrior appear out of the light that had enveloped Kendo Garuramon. Ino slowly woke up as Choji helped her keep steady on her feet. How did it go? Shikamaru asked as he watched Duskmon and Lobomon battle each other with their blades. What was it like inside Kendo Garuramon's, Lobomon's, whoever's mind? It's quite surprising, that's for sure. Ino answered as she wasn't sure if she should reveal that both Kendo Garuramon and Lobomon are the same person as well as Naruto. You've become weaker, Duskmon said as he was gaining some ground as he and his opponent were in a pushing contest with their blades. You've burned up too much chakra. I'm not the only one who's used too much chakra. Lobomon countered with a smirk on his face as was soon gaining ground. Even with what little chakra I have left, Duskmon said as he added extra effort with his pushing, I will destroy you. Deadly gaze. Not expecting the surprise attack, Lobomon was hit at point-blank range as Duskman's large eye that was at the center of his body shot out a beam that had impacted itself against the Warrior of Light's chest. The attack had launched Lobomon back and caused him to slide towards Sakura and Team 10 as the center of his armor was destroyed by the attack, revealing a white shirt that has a charred spot at the center of his chest. Lobomon! Sakura called out as she and Ino rushed towards the fallen warrior's side, seeing the blood slowly crawling from his mouth. Damn! The injured warrior spat out as he coughed out a bit of blood. That attack did quite a bit of damage. I suggest that you stay down like the mutt that you are, Duskmon said as he slowly approached the fallen Lobomon with a lone blade ready to end his opponent's life. At least you will die by the hands of an Uchiha. Seeing just how close the demonic warrior was, Sakura quickly jumped and tackled Duskmon into a hug, tears falling from her eyes. Please, stop this, Sakura said as she tightened her hug around the demonic warrior's body. Please stop this, Sasuke-kun. Looking at the rosette, Duskmon then suddenly saw just no reason to end Lobomon's life, this time. Consider yourself lucky that I am busy with other important matters, Duskmon said as the red blade retreated back into the skull that housed it, or I would have ended your life. But next time, I will kill you. The demonic warrior was soon enveloped in a light before fading away to reveal Sasuke, with Sakura still holding him in a hug. Sasuke-kun! The rosette said with slight joy as the Uchiha was back to normal. Sasuke? Lobomon said as he saw Sakura trying to keep the now unconscious Sasuke from hitting the ground before he too saw his vision darken. Everyone watched as Lobomon passed out with Ino trying to wake him as she gently slapped his face while propping his head on her knees. A bright light soon enveloped the Warrior of Light as some of the ninjas were ready for another fight until... No way! Kiba said as he saw the light fade away to reveal a familiar person as everyone had a look of surprise on their faces, save for both Ino and Shino. Sakura stared in pure shock and confusion as the light soon revealed the last person she would have expected to see as Lobomon. Naruto? Naruto's mindscape. What are we going to do? They saw him reveal his true form. What? Naruto thought as he was starting to come around. What happened? Memories of past events had flashed through his mind as a sudden burst of realization had given him enough energy to jolt awake. Sasuke! Naruto said as he quickly tried to get to his feet, but had only managed to sit up as his body was aching. Easy there! Ancient Megatheriumon said as Ancient Kazumon sat next to the blonde. Both your mind and body are under some stress due to what had transpired. Naruto let himself rest for a brief moment to gather his bearings when he had noticed something. Where are the others? Naruto said as only 4 of the legendary warriors were present. Ancient Sphinxman is looking at the seal that the shinobi had placed on you. Ancient Garuramon said as Ancient Kazumon helped the blonde onto his feet. That seal had done something to a few of the others. We need to go check on them, Naruto said before he lost feelings to his legs as Ancient Kazumon had caught him before he fell. Do not rush yourself, Ancient Megatheriumon said as he shrunk himself down to the size of a horse. We shall take you to them while you get some rest. Ancient Kazumon hoisted the blonde onto the ram's back before the group headed off toward their desired location. After going through some turns, Naruto looked at the others and asked, who was that and why did he transform into Sasuke? The legendary warriors were silent until ancient Garurumon broke the uncomfortable silence. That was Duskmon, and like the forms you adopt for each element, the warrior of light said as he remained focused of the path ahead, he too is a part of our power, but at a more corrupted level. Corrupted? Naruto asked in confusion. Yes. Ancient Megatheriumon said as the group took a tunnel to the left, you see, you are not the first to wield our power. The warrior of ice let out a small, nostalgic sigh as he then continued, long ago, we had sensed the actions of a foe that we had defeated long ago. We were still weakened at the time as our power had been separated into the spirit forms you use today, so we had chosen champions from our neighboring world. Unfortunately, Lusmon had managed to corrupt not only ancient Sphinxman's forms but also one of the 3 divine beings of that world. Ancient Garurumon said stoically, from there, we had also lost ancient Mermaimon, ancient Twizetman, ancient Troyamon, and ancient Valmon to that divine being that became Lusmon's servant, Cherubimon. The remaining 5 champions had to face them of many different occasions, even losing ancient Kazamon's and ancient Megatheriumon's power before regaining them once more. While the powers of earth, water, wood, and metal were just inhabiting empty shells, ancient Kazamon said with a saddened tone, ancient Sphinxman's champion had suffered a slight accident that allowed his own spirit to enter our world, where Cherubimon infused him with the corrupted power of darkness. Ancient Garurumon's champion had fought tooth and nail before ancient Sphinxman's champion was set free from Cherubimon's control, allowing him to obtain the true power of darkness. Naruto remained quiet as the information sunk into his mind before he asked, so how is Duskmon still around if I have ancient Sphinxman's power? That we do not know, ancient Garurumon said as he crossed his arms, but we can only guess just who was responsible in giving Sasuke that kind of power. You don't mean? Ancient Kazamon asked with dread in her voice. Ancient Garurumon nodded grimly as he then said, that's right, Lusmon. Before another word was said, Naruto gasped out in horror at what he saw as he and the legendary warriors had made it to their destination. What happened to them? Naruto asked out as ancient Mermaimon, ancient Twizetman, ancient Troyamon, and ancient Vulcaman were bound to the walls in a combination of midnight black chains and violet flames, while ancient Greymon was bound to the ceiling by the same chains and flames. The new seal on your body had done this to them. Ancient Sphinxman said as he sat before the group. GG. Naruto called out as he jumped off ancient Megatheriumon's back and carefully walked towards the warrior of darkness. It is good to see you once more, my grandson, ancient Sphinxman said as he stood up on his feet, but we have more pressing matters to attend to. The armored cat used his tail to point towards the Kyuubi's cage to reveal that the entrance now had a giant stone slab in front of it, barring any form of sight in or out of the cage behind it. I have studied the seal placed on you to find that it was originally supposed to block you from not only accessing the Kyuubi's chakra, but your own as well. Ancient Sphinxman said before his tail pointed to each of the chained legendary warriors. However, it appears that the seal had also interfered with our power, as well as you no longer have access to the elements of fire and water, nor can you obtain the elements of earth, metal, and wood. How do we set them free then? Naruto asked as the sight of ancient Greymon's bound form frightened him. I have been looking into the matter myself, the warrior of darkness said as he approached ancient Vulcaman and observed the chain, and aside from an outside source that had the knowledge and skill to safely remove this seal, I do have one idea that might possibly work. Ancient Sphinxman then turned his attention to Naruto and said, but for now, Naruto, get yourself some much-needed rest, as who knows what trials await you. We shall call for you should we find anything. Naruto was still before giving the warrior of darkness a reluctant nod before he had vanished. I hope your plan works. Ancient Garurumon said as he looked at his bound comrades. So do I. Ancient Sphinxman said as he had some doubts about this plan he had. So do I. Forest of Death. The moon shone brightly as the Konoha rookies, save for Team Guy, were sitting around a campfire as Naruto and Sasuke were at opposite ends of the group. Guess now would be a good time to ask just what the hell had happened. Shikamaru said as he let out a sigh, I mean, you all just saw what had happened, right? How could we not? Kiba said with a loud growl in his voice, we just saw that Kendo Garurumon monster change into that Lobomon character, and then into Naruto, while that creep Duskmon turns out to be Sasuke. What the hell didn't happen? The group was silent once more until everyone looked at both Shino and Sakura as they sat next to each other. What's going on? Sakura asked with slight fear. I only saw Sasuke change into Duskmon and I'm just as surprised as you guys to find out that Lobomon was really Naruto. But aren't they your teammates? Choji asked in slight confusion. How could you not know of this? Whatever had happened to Sasuke was actually just recent, and Naruto. The Rosette answered with slight hesitation when she mentioned her blonde teammate. I've been working on getting Naruto's trust back. I honestly don't know much about him, and I've even thought that the Naruto we've been seeing was just pretending to be an idiotic loudmouth. Kiba then turned his attention towards Shino and asked, What about you, Shino? Did you know about Naruto and Sasuke's powers? The Aburame in question remained silent until he said, Much like Sakura, I had recently discovered Sasuke's power, and as for Naruto-san's, that is not my secret to tell. With his anger growing, Kiba quickly stood up and said, Then what about when we had saw Agunimon, Ranamon, or Beat Lemon? We could have been killed when Agunimon changed into Burning Greymon. Were they Naruto as well? Kiba, please. Hinata said as she stood in front of the angered Inuzuka, You might give our location away. I'm sure that both Naruto-kun and Shino had reasons to keep this from us. And what reason could be far more important than the lives of your comrades? Kiba argued back with a sharp and viciously harsh tone, causing Hinata to visibly step back with a retreating flinch. The look of fear in Hinata's eyes had drained Kiba of nearly all his anger, causing him to regretfully sigh and said, I'm sorry, Hinata-chan. It's just that. Some of us had spent more time with Naruto back in the academy, and had never given any kind of thought that the same goofball we know could have such an impacting surprise. Shikamaru said as he and Choji could easily remember the fun times they had with the now unconscious blonde. No one could have expected Naruto to have that kind of power. It would be like if a civilian adult awakening the legendary Rinnegan just out of the blue. The crackling sound of the campfire echoed through the group for an uncomfortable moment until Ino looked at Sakura and asked, So Sakura, do you think you could tell us about how that warrior suddenly changed into Sasuke? The Rosette took a quick look at both of her unconscious teammates before she said, Well, it started when Naruto ran off into a different part of the forest to go to the bathroom. When he came back, Sasuke saw that he was a fake and quickly took care of him before Naruto showed up. But this one was also a fake as this fake Naruto knew far too much for our Naruto. When Sasuke faced this fake Naruto, we were forced to retreat as the Kusa shinobi was too powerful for us as she kept chasing us. We thought we were done for when Lobomon suddenly appeared saying that Naruto had sent him. Sakura sighed with slight anger at herself as she then said, I should have seen the signs. Both Lobomon and Agunimon knew the shadow clone jutsu, Beetleman's reaction at seeing Agunimon, and even how Naruto knew about me telling Kazuma that he was dead weight. Seeing the Rosette curl into herself with guilty depression, Ino carefully placed a comforting hand on Sakura's shoulder. When Lobomon thought he had won, Sakura continued as tears formed in her eyes as she replaced the image of Lobomon with Naruto. That Kusa shinobi suddenly ambushed him and placed some sort of seal on Lobomon, on Naruto. That seal must have done something to cause Naruto-san to lose control like that, Shino thought as he stole a glance towards the unconscious blonde before seeing that Shikamaru seemed to have the same idea as he suddenly approached Naruto. After the Nara had unzipped the jacket and removed Naruto's shirt, he couldn't help but let out an awestruck gasp. What is it? Is something wrong with Naruto? Sakura asked as she and the others gathered around Naruto with Akamaru watching over Sasuke. The others soon had slapped looks on their faces as upon Naruto's lower abdomen was a series of writing with kanji overlapping each other in an eerie manner. A swirl was seen dead center of the jumbled mess of different writings and marks. Oh my God! Choji gasped out at the complex mess as he couldn't tell where some marks end or even began. With some of her knowledge of basic seals and sealing methods, Sakura knew that whatever the seals were doing to Naruto were now badly messed up due to the seal that the Kusa shinobi had placed on her teammate. But which seal is hers? Sakura asked herself as she studied the mess of ink on Naruto's stomach. Damn, Shikamaru said with a cringe on his face after inspecting the seals. This actually became more complicated than I had originally thought. What do you mean? Ino asked with a slightly frightened look on her face. I mean, These are highly advanced seals on Naruto's gut. But could whatever that Kusa shinobi had done be any worse? I'm not sure, as I doubt any of us could easily make heads or tails of the seals on Naruto, and if we try anything. Shikamaru said as he stood up, leaving the others to contemplate the obvious answer. I'm have to go see a man about a horse, so be alert for anything, and should things really go sour, open the scrolls they gave us. But what about the exam? Kiba asked as he pondered why the Nara before would even suggest throwing away a chance to go up in rank. The exams would be worth nothing if Naruto's power go haywire on us again. Shino said as he too stood up and walked towards Shikamaru. Although Ino was able to stop Kendo Garurumon, I don't think we could be that lucky again. Everyone was silent at the idea of what could happen as Shikamaru, Shino, and Choji soon vanishing into the surrounding trees and darkness before Kiba returned to keeping an eye on Sasuke while Hinata and Ino went to a different part of the area, leaving Sakura to watch over Naruto, and to her own thoughts. Why would Naruto keep such a secret from us? The Rosette thought as she got the discarded jacket back on the blonde and zipping it back up as the shirt remained on the ground. Doesn't he trust us by now? I'm actually not surprised by something like this. Inner Sakura said as her voice rung through the Rosette's skull, especially considering everything that had happened with what you and this team had done. Sakura instinctively placed a hand on her cheek where Naruto had slapped her during their mission to Nami. Part of her was angry at Naruto for not only striking her that day, but for keeping something like this from her after saying that she needed to earn his trust again to make up some of the abuse she had given him. Trust, Sakura suddenly thought as a broader picture soon formed in her mind as she could see herself continuing her abuse towards Naruto for lying and trying to be better than her Sasuke-kun when he just needed help or advice, something that is so powerful that it can actually go two different ways. You and I both wouldn't argue that it was a good idea for Naruto to keep this a secret, as who knows how people could react, and what could happen if he had lost control of this kind of power. Inner Sakura said as she crossed her arms. That would be like if Naruto had the Kyuubi sealed inside of him instead of the Yondaime killing it. The Rosette couldn't help but think on what her inner self had said before she had remembered something from a book she had once read. The Kyuubi is one of the 9 bijus, living chakra in the form of monstrous beasts, Sakura thought as her eyes widened at the implication she was drawing to, silently praying that it couldn't be what she thought it was. Not too far off from the campsite, Shino, Shikamaru, and Choji were on their way back when Shikamaru suddenly stopped. Before we return to the others, Shikamaru said as he grabbed Choji's and Shino's attention, making them stop and face him, we need to talk. If this is about. We know of the 9th tenant, Choji said with a firm voice while sending the Aburame a hidden message, and we do know the real difference between sheath and sword. Shino remained silent, studying the duo before him for any signs that would tell him that they're both lying. We're not like the oblivious villagers or some of the ignorant dumbass within Konoha's forces. Shikamaru added as he knew that the Aburame was trying to detect any form of fabrication. If anything, Naruto should be the one worshipped, considering the two things about Naruto. So you do have the same suspicions about whom Naruto-san's parents are as I do. Shino said as he relaxed after sensing nothing wrong. However, I still won't tell you about Naruto-san's powers, as I am still unsure if I should trust you both with this secret. Choji said nothing as he wanted Shikamaru to be leading with the negotiations, and the two knew not to be too forceful, as such a tactic would be similar to stirring up a hornet's nest. However, Shino added as he pushed his glasses on his nose, I will reveal that Naruto-san does have more tenants than the 9th. But that is all I shall say, as what I have revealed may already breach the trust one have with Naruto-san. Shikamaru nodded as he then said, our lips are sealed and we wouldn't breathe a single word of this. I'll hold you to it. Shino said before he turned towards the camp, I best go check on the others as they might begin to worry about us. Once Shino was far away, Choji turned to his close friend and said, seems like there's more to Naruto's power than we had thought. Yeah. Shikamaru added as the whole ordeal was just too troublesome to him. I'm sure that Naruto might let us know in good time, as Shino is right about this being Naruto's secret. But what about? Choji asked as he wanted to avoid mentioning the Kyuubi. I'm sure that whatever this power Naruto has is capable of holding the Kyuubi back. Shikamaru answered as he saw Shino sit next to Naruto. Now let's go get some rest, as this whole day's been troublesome from the start. Choji couldn't argue as this day was one crazy thing after another, and he was feeling fatigued due to the excitement of past events. At the camp, Ino and Hinata were sitting next to each other, and carefully watched the fire dance before them. "Today's been something," Ino said as she turned her attention to Hinata. "Wouldn't you say?" Hinata silently nodded before she said, "And Naruto-kun was something." It was briefly silent between the two girls until Hinata said, "I had confessed my love to Naruto-kun without even knowing it." As if sensing Ino's confusion, Hinata continued, "Back during our mission to help Naruto-kun's team with their mission, Shino and I had taken what we had believed to be a fatal attack for Agumon, and I told Aguni-san to tell Naruto-kun that I loved him. Looking back, I realized that I had confessed my love to him if Naruto-kun was indeed Agumon." Ino quietly chuckled a little bit before she said, "A lot of people knew of your crush on Naruto, but only a few know that you're not the only one." Hinata quickly looked to see a tiny blush form on the Yamanaka's cheeks as she then asked, "Did?" Ino smiled a bit before she said, "Yeah, when Daddy told me about how difficult of a life Naruto had considering that he was born right on the night of the Kyuubi attack." "Adults are stupid." Ino looked up at the shadows dancing in the limbs above and continued, "Naruto is always smiling, even through the bad, and he's just so cheery, so brave, so troubled." Hinata sadly finished as Ino closed her eyes and lowered her head. "Yeah," Ino said as she opened her eyes and watched the flames dance wildly with emotion. "Surprisingly, I admire Naruto for being able to handle everything that's been thrown at him, and still get up. Bravery, stupidity, or whatever it is, Naruto always seems to fight for others and is willing to become stronger for them as well." Ino chuckled a bit as she continued, "When I was in Naruto's mind when Kendo Garuramon had control over him, I saw him weak and helpless and it was almost frightening to see someone like Naruto in such a state. What made it worse was that inside Naruto's mind, Kendo Garuramon had taken on a monstrous form of Naruto that was nothing but pure rage and bloodlust. It was the same deal when Burning Greymon arrived." Hinata shivered a bit at the thought of some mindless beast taking control of Naruto, and going on a rampage with the blonde being unable to stop it. Wanting to get her mind elsewhere, Ino looked at Hinata and asked, "So what do we do from here now that Naruto and the two of us knows we like him like that?" Hinata wasn't sure, as she really did love Naruto. But she didn't want to take to be greedy and keep him all to herself. But at the same time, the Hyuga didn't want to lose Naruto to some other girl because she was too much of a coward to talk to Naruto. Sensing Hinata's turmoil, Ino said, "How about we wait until Naruto's awake and tell him about how we both feel about him and let him decide on what to do. If he wants to date you, then I'll be there for you both, and if he wants to date me instead, I'll still be there for you, as I will admit that you are prettier than me and some guys do like the shy and cute type." Hinata nodded as Ino's idea did sound as it would be a win-win. She either gets Naruto as her boyfriend, or she gets a new friend. Sasuke's mindscape. Sasuke opened his eyes to find himself in the Uchiha district that was covered in shadows, with some of the buildings either badly run down or completely destroyed into unrecognizable rubble. The Uchiha continued to walk as if some force was driving him to travel a certain path. Before he could ponder where he was going, Sasuke then saw his own home, but something was different about it. His house was replaced by a lustrous mansion that not even the Hokage's mansion could be considered its equal. The mansion had winged skeletal statues that were positioned as if to guard the entrance of the mansion, while two fountains that were next to the ash-black walkway that had statues of Ribenji in the middle with water pouring out of his open palms. "Greetings," said a familiar voice as Sasuke saw Ribenji fly towards him before landing right before him. "Hope it was alright if I had adjusted a few things to my liking." "Where am I?" Sasuke ordered as he carefully studied the statues. "This doesn't look like the Forest of Death." "That's because this is your mind, Sasuke," Ribenji answered with a smile before walking towards the mansion and motioning the Uchiha to follow him. "You are still in the Forest of Death, where the others are watching over your weakened form." As if sensing Sasuke's growing agitation, Ribenji quickly said, "I had made a slight error with granting you that gift, as your body wasn't used to such power, as you had burned off so much chakra so recklessly. But that is something that can easily be corrected in due time with enough training." "Are you going to take it back then?" Sasuke asked as he narrowed his eyes. "Oh heavens, no!" the angelic being said as he turned to face the young boy. We just need to work on your chakra and control for you to use it as much as you want. However, an angered scowl formed on Ribenji's face as he then said, I had finally saw that those traitors are there. A small table soon with a tea set on it, and 2 chairs at opposite ends soon appeared before the two. Allow me to give you a little history lesson about myself, Ribenji said as he sat on one chair as Sasuke sat at the other end. You see, I was once a mighty king and a benevolent ruler, long ago. It was far before the time of the person by the name of Hagoromo Otsutsuki, or the Sage of 6 Paths as this world's legends call him, and I had led many a century of peace as I was a fair and just ruler, at least until my own guards had betrayed me. After pouring Sasuke and himself some tea, Ribenji then continued, I had given them a mere fraction of my power, 1/10 to be exact, and they had mastered this power at an astounding rate that I had given them the name of the legendary warriors as none could surpass them. But I had the unfortunate luck of them using that very power I had given them against me. Ribenji took a small sip of his tea as he continued once more. Those traitorous bastards had turned the gift I had given them into some perverse monstrosity, and sealed me away within the very center of my own world. So how did you escape? Sasuke asked as he took a sip of his own tea, noting that it was seductively delicious. Well, Ribenji answered as he took a quick sip of his tea, I had to wait a very long while until I had regained enough power to corrupt one of their protectors as our battle had drained them a good bit of their energy. That protector then corrupted the spirits he was guarding before even corrupting one of the warrior's own champion. Unfortunately, he had failed and lost not only the champion he had corrupted, but the other spirits of the legendary warriors to the uncorrupted champions. However, I was able to summon forth my own champions with the power I had accumulated, and had them gather parts of my world to help me regain my full power. Ribenji had a small smile on his face as he continued, I was able to obtain the rest of my power, and my full form. I was easily able to take those little brats down, even toying with them by going into what I call my regal form. It was quite humorous as they couldn't even put one strand of hair out of place. The angel then scowled as he finished, I had underestimated them as they had managed to recreate that perverse monstrosity, and forced me into my beast of god form. A form of pure rage and hatred appeared on Ribenji's face as he suddenly roared out, those pathetic little brats had even defeated my most powerful form and destroyed every fiber of my being like it was child's play. Crash! Sasuke saw Ribenji breathing heavily after tossing the teacup into a parallel wall before the angelic being calmed his breathing. Forgive me, that was unnecessary of me, Ribenji said as a new teacup suddenly reformed in his hand. Now here's the part where you come in, Uchiha-san. Sasuke raised an eyebrow as the angel then said, while I do appear before you in your mind, I am still trapped in a dark void of the afterlife that they had banished me to. I have given you a fraction of my power that I had recovered, but I am still too weakened to fully escape my new prison. The mark I had removed from your body would have manipulated your lust for power into seeking out a person by the name of Orochimaru. While I had removed his influence from both your mind and body, I do believe that any form of power he offers will be beneficial to both you and me. I would once again be able to walk upon the land once more while you would have the power to not only avenge your clan, but rebuild it anew. Then I should go find this Orochimaru, Sasuke said with determination before Ribenji held up a hand, halting whatever action the Uchiha was about to do. Patience, my champion, Ribenji said as he took a quick sip of his tea. We will go to Orochimaru, but in due time. Going now would be a waste of both of our time and effort, so you shall wait and train for that very moment so that we can bait the fish. When that time has arrived, Sasuke saw the winning, devilish smirk on Ribenji's face and understood what the angel was saying. Now I think it's time for you to rest, Ribenji said as the tea set vanished into dark mist. Tomorrow is a brand new day and you will need all the strength and energy you can gather for your trials up ahead. Sasuke nodded before completely vanishing out of sight, unaware that Ribenji was still sitting playfully in the chair with a Cheshire smile on his face. Humans are so easy to manipulate. Forest of Death. The rookies traveled through the forest with Choji and Kiba carrying Naruto while Shikamaru and Shino were carrying Sasuke as they traveled by the numerous and ominous trees. Think we could travel a little bit faster? Ino asked as she looked around with slight nervousness. we really stick out. You're not the one who has to carry 2 unconscious colleagues. Shikamaru slightly growled out as he was wishing that the unconscious Uchiha would wake up soon, but we should be safe considering that Hinata, Kiba, and Shino are from clans that have abilities that are quite beneficial in preventing ambushes. They'd alert us if anything's different. While I agree with Shikamaru, Shino said as he continued his sluggish pace in tandem with the Nara, it would be better if we got to the tower as quickly as possible and see if we could get someone to look at Sasuke's and Naruto-san's seals. I'd rather much avoid an incident similar to yesterday's. Wait! Hinata said as everyone stopped in their tracks while she flashed through some seals. Byakugan. Veins bulged at the side of Hinata's face as she carefully looked around the area. You smell anything off, Akamaru? Kiba asked as his canine partner sniffed around the area. Hinata then drew out a kunai while the small dog growled threateningly, both causing everyone to get ready for a fight. Wait a minute! A voice called out as a young man with gray hair wearing glasses stepped out from behind a tree. It's just me and my team. Kabuto? Sakura said as she remembered the young man from before the written portion of the exam. Thank goodness we found someone from our village. Look, we need help. After filling Kabuto in on what had happened, while omitting a few important details on Naruto and Sasuke, the older ninja nodded before blowing out a bird call that summoned his teammates. Set them on the ground. Kabuto said as Naruto and Sasuke were placed near him. I really don't have an expert's skills when it comes to seals, but I do know enough to decipher what some seals are supposed to do and try to tweak them. After removing the unconscious blonde shirt, Kabuto started to examine the series of seals on Naruto's body. My God! Kabuto said as he tried to study the mess of seals, I'm honestly surprised that this kid hasn't died or worse. What do you mean? Kiba asked with slight concern in his voice. Okay, allow me to explain, Kabuto began as he began with the large swirl and writings leading out from it. These 2 seals are meant to hold something powerful inside whatever, or in this case whomever, is attached to this seal. The spacing between these 2 seals actually allows whatever power is sealed inside of Naruto to become a part of his own power. It's recycling that power as Naruto's own. The young man then pointed to the 10 kanji seal that overlapped it, and continued, this seal here actually helps enforce the other seal's power, making it stronger. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sensing power from each of the 10 surrounding kanji. Whether or not they do anything else has to be deciphered by the one who originally placed this seal, as I've never seen one like this. Then there are these ones. Kabuto said as he motioned towards the 5 kanji that had an ominous purple glow to them. Whoever had placed this seal had probably had the original intentions of disrupting the first seal, but this second one had taken most of the seal. The first seal is still affected, but the second seal took the brunt of this attempt. This actually causes a disruption within Naruto's body. Imagine a water system designed to transfer water to different houses with the main building being at the center. Kabuto then said as he carefully edged himself away from the unconscious blonde, that main building, when working properly, successfully gives not only the houses the water that they need, but also provides itself its own water. Now if something similar to these seals were to happen to that main water building, it would then continue building water within itself until the problem's fixed, or the pressure from all of that collected water causes it to explode from excess. This caused everyone to pale at the idea of Naruto's body exploding from excess chakra building up inside of his body. Can you do anything? Sakura asked as she pleadingly looked at the young man. Kabuto let out a sigh as he said, like I said, while I do have some knowledge on tweaking some seals, I'm actually afraid to try anything as I'm not that skilled, alongside the fact that if I slip up. But you have to try something. Sakura pleaded as she stole a glance towards her blonde teammate. Please. Before another word was said, sparks began to dance around the seals on Naruto's body, sending everyone on high alert. Everyone get back! Kabuto said as he jumped across Naruto before pulling Sasuke to the side while everyone jumped back in fear of what might happen. Naruto's mindscape. Inside Naruto's mind, Ancient Sphinxman and the other legendary warriors stood in the middle of the large room and focused his power, while the other legendary warriors that were not chained up watched in anticipation. Please let this work. Ancient Sphinxman said as his eyes flashed while using a small portion of Naruto's chakra with some of his own powers. Using a mighty leap, the warrior of darkness placed a claw on ancient Twizetman's shoulder before jumping toward ancient Troyman. Metal pierces wood. Ancient Sphinxman said as he jumped from the warrior of steel to the warrior of wood before jumping towards ancient Vulcaman. Wood splits earth. Jumping from the warrior of earth to ancient Mermayman, the warrior of darkness then said, earth absorbs water. Hope this works. Ancient Kazaman said with her hands clasped together, as she watched her colleague jump from the warrior of water to ancient Greyman. For Naruto's sake, water douses fire. Ancient Sphinxman said as he then jumped from the mighty dragon towards the legendary warrior he started from, and fire melts metal. After the warrior of darkness jumped back onto the floor, the legendary warriors watched as each of their chained colleagues began to glow brightly before everyone had to cover their eyes. Once the bright flash had vanished, ancient Kazaman uncovered her eyes and slowly opened them as she asked, Did it work? Everyone soon followed as they uncovered their eyes to see. This seal is more troublesome than I had anticipated. Ancient Sphinxman said as he saw that his colleagues were still chained up until he noticed something. At least my attempt was not without its fruits. A small groan was heard as everyone saw ancient Greyman weakly moving his body before waking up. What? The warrior of fire asked as he was still in a daze, what has happened? And why am I chained up along with a few of the others? It is good to see that you are now conscious, ancient Greyman, ancient Garurumon said as he took a few steps forward, but we have a serious problem which answers both of your questions. Ancient Sphinxman turned towards ancient Kazaman and ancient Megatheriumon as he said, Ancient Garurumon, and I shall explain everything to ancient Greyman. So in the meantime, please go check on Naruto as I am sure that he even felt that in his dream. The two legendary warriors nodded before they vanished into midair while the warrior of darkness turned towards ancient Greyman as he said, Now then, where shall we start? Forest of Death. Everyone hid behind what thick trees they could find and waited for what might be a powerful explosion as the wait felt like hours. Sakura asked aloud as she was afraid of looking towards Naruto, is it over? Using her Baiwakugan, Hinata first observed the area before observing Naruto's chakra system. After waiting for what felt like another hour, Hinata then said, I think everything is okay at the moment. Using the utmost caution that they could, everyone slowly crept out of their hiding spots and walked towards the still unconscious blonde. Naruto? Sakura asked as she edged closer to said person, Naruto, can you hear me? Everyone suddenly flinched back in fear when the blonde suddenly turned on his side towards the pinkette before a few soft snores could be heard from Naruto. Still out cold? Shino said as he tried to remain stoic despite a small drop of sweat rolled down the side of his face. Typical Naruto. Kabuto looked around the area as he then said, I think it's best if we get out of here as I'm sure that little show had to have drawn some attention. I can look at Sasuke's seal later as we need to reach the tower as soon as possible. Not wanting to argue, Shikamaru put the shirt and jacket back on Naruto before he and Choji hoisted the blonde onto their shoulders while Kabuto had his teammates carry Sasuke. Alright, let's go. Shikamaru said as he adjusted his hold on Naruto, same positions as before with Kabuto and his team in between. Everyone nodded and began to lightly rush through the forest while not trying to draw any more attention. Naruto's mindscape. Ancient Greyman stared at Ancient Sphinxman after letting the information he learned digest in his mind. I see. The great dragon said with a guilty sigh at what had happened, so this new seal is interfering with both seals, with ours being affected the most. Yes, and aside from finding someone with the proper knowledge of removing this particular seal, Ancient Sphinxman said as he noticed that the others that were sealed like Ancient Greyman were either barely conscious or not even at all. We do not have any way of removing it without damaging Naruto, or the seal that bounds the Kyuubi to him. I can also suspect that since Naruto was also using one of the powers we granted him when this new seal was placed, the warrior of darkness continued as his tail slowly swayed from one side to the other. This seal could also allow the beast spirits to probably take control of Naruto the moment he uses which element he chooses. This is practically a disaster set in motion if not stopped. Ancient Greyman remained in contemplative silence before letting out another sigh as he then said, I believe this might be a good time to tell Naruto about that other part of the seal and also let him be aware that we are going to restrict his power until this new seal has been removed. However, the mighty dragon carefully adjusted his neck as he said, I want to tell Naruto this myself alone. He had trusted us so much, and sees us as family, and to lose his trust because of this secret that might damage this bond. That is why I, alone, shall tell him. I shall go retrieve him," Ancient Sphinxman said before he vanished into thin air while Naruto soon replaced him. "Gigi told me that you wanted to talk to me?" Naruto asked as he looked up towards the warrior of fire. "Yes, Naruto." Ancient Greymon answered with a slight nod. "There are a couple things that I must tell you. First off, due to the new seal that was recently placed on you, we are going to cut you off from our power as to help prevent any more damage that has already been done." "What?" Naruto said in disbelieving shock. "Why? I've been working so hard with this power. I know you have, as your progress is worth the well-deserved praise," Ancient Greymon said with a tone of guilt. "But please know that since this seal had caused the beast spirit of light to control you, we only wished to prevent an incident like this from happening. This isn't easy on us as well, but we truly do want to help you." Naruto remained silent as memories of killing a few ninjas as Kendo Garurumon, and the memory of Burning Greymon taking control of him soon flashed in his mind. He wanted to keep those memories as a reminder of to not take the power of the beast spirits so lightly, as their power were just so frighteningly awesome. Perhaps it was better to not have the legendary warrior's power until this seal was taken care of. Seeing that Naruto wasn't going to argue back at the moment, Ancient Greymon then said, "There's one last thing you must know, as it also involves the seal that allows you to use our power." Seeing the question in the blonde's eyes, the mighty dragon then said, "We have placed a defense mechanism within this seal to where should anyone try to force this power from you or try to control you into using this power, it is set to release all 10 beast spirits out at once alongside of the Kyuubi. And it'll kill me, won't it?" Naruto asked as he then saw frightened sadness in Ancient Greymon's eyes as the dragon before him sadly nodded. "I didn't want to tell you until you had gained control of your first beast spirit, but recent events had said otherwise," Ancient Greymon said solemnly as he wished he could not fully look at the blonde before him. "But please understand that we only done this to protect you from those who would use this gift for ill desires." Naruto was silent for a moment as he let what was revealed to him digest. He knew that the legendary warriors wouldn't do something like this without viable reason, but he also wished that they would have told him about this defense mechanism. Ino had already entered his mind before when Naruto was possessed by Kendo Garurumon, and while the legendary warrior's seal might not have been acting right still. But then Naruto got to thinking, how would he have reacted if he was told of this defense mechanism? The blonde silently admitting that he can be a bit hot-headed and brash at times, but Ancient Greymon had told him it was to protect him from those who would try to use his powers for their own purposes. Naruto knew that he might have made a scene and probably do something that would have hurt both him and the legendary warriors. And after they had done so much for him for so long, the legendary warriors had become the family that Naruto had always wanted. Ancient Kazumon was always there and caring for him as if she was his own mother. Ancient Sphinxman was like the Sandaime, as he was willing to provide wisdom should the blonde seek it, while Ancient Twizeman was the knowledgeable uncle that would teach Naruto what he could and even tried to help the blonde solve a few problems that should appear. Ancient Garurumon was the distant, yet protective uncle that would be willing to scold Naruto on what he did wrong while teaching him how to be a better fighter, and Ancient Mermaimon was the bubbly sister that would support the blonde from the sidelines with her energy alone. Ancient Beetlemon and Ancient Megatheriumon were like the older brothers that would protect him and provide what wisdom they could, while Ancient Volcamon was the cool older brother that would inspire Naruto to be great. Ancient Troymon was the one uncle that would teach Naruto about how to not let things get to him while occasionally just lending an ear to be heard. As for Ancient Greymon, Naruto saw that the mighty dragon would protect, care, and love him while also working either just as hard, or even harder than Naruto would to ensure the safety and future for the smaller blonde. Naruto smiled as he looked at Ancient Greymon as he said, "While I wish you guys could have told me about this defense mechanism, but I can understand that you only done it to protect me from those who would abuse this gift. You've done it out of love, and that shows how our bond affects us. I can't lose this family, nor do I want to risk losing it, as you guys have done so much for me, not only to help me, but to show that you do care about me." "Thank you, Too-san." Ancient Greymon smiled as he could feel pride at how mature Naruto was about this. The dragon honestly thought the blonde before him might throw a fit about them holding information about the seal from them, but this surprised him in a good way. "You are welcome, my son," the dragon said with pride in his voice as he then said, "I do believe that we have kept you long enough, but just think of us if you ever want to talk." Naruto nodded as he vanished before Ancient Greymon as the warrior of fire then said, "You can come out now, Ancient Kazuma." "Out from the shadows," said legendary warrior stepped out with a guilty look on her eyes as she knew that this was supposed to be a private matter. "I know you wanted to talk to him alone, but I couldn't just let him face whatever you might tell him alone," Ancient Kazuma said as she approached the dragon before her. "I wanted to be there for him, as a mother should be." "I do not blame you, for I would have done the same," Ancient Greymon said with understanding. "But there are times that we need to let Naruto walk on his own 2 feet and face problems on his own, even if he's already been doing so before we had met him. His life was already traded away the moment the Kyuubi was sealed into him," the warrior of wind said as she approached the stone slab that blocked their view of the demon fox. "I can only imagine just why the Yandane would do such a thing, while also wondering about just who Naruto's real parents were, and how they could leave him like this." "True," Ancient Greymon said as he had a few ideas of how to answer those inquiries, "but we can only guess until we learn the truth from either the Sandaime, or from another source." "What do you mean?" Ancient Kazuma asked as she looked at the dragon in confusion. "I'm sure that Ancient Twisetman and Ancient Sphinxman had noticed, but I sensed something within the Kyuubi's seal," Ancient Greymon said as the warrior of wind flew up towards him. "I cannot say just what it is, but somehow, I can sense a fraction of Naruto within the seal. Whether this is Naruto or not, I'm sure that those presences are somewhat familiar to him. I just can't put my claw on it." "Whatever it is," Ancient Kazuma said with matured curiosity on her face as she looked back towards the stone slab, "I'm sure that we can handle it. Seems like our son had rubbed off of you," Ancient Greymon said with a chuckle in his voice, causing Ancient Kazuma to shrug towards him. "What can I say?" the warrior of wind said with a smile behind her mask. "He's my baby boy and a mother should protect their child." The two smiled, knowing that they would be ready to help Naruto whenever he would need them. Forest of Death. The Konoha group had managed to travel deeper into the forest as they still had to be cautious of some of the other ninja that could be waiting for them. "We shouldn't be too far from the tower," Kiba said as he and Akamaru jumped from one of the nearby trees and landed near the group. "I could see the tower not halfway from the top of that tree." "Still we must exercise caution," Shino said as he adjusted his glasses. "Who knows what sort of opposition we may run into on our journey." "Aang." Shikamaru and Choji felt Naruto stirring as they saw the blonde slowly open his eyes. "Welcome back," Shikamaru said as he and Choji carefully let Naruto regain his balance before stepping away from him. Naruto chuckled a bit as something dawned on him before he asked, "So, you guys saw that, didn't ya?" "Yeah," Shikamaru admitted as everyone, save for Kabuto's team and the still unconscious Sasuke, nodded. "But you can tell us later if you want to. While we do want answers, we're not going to force them from you." Shino approached the blonde as he carefully placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and said, "We are glad that you are alright, Naruto-san." Naruto smiled as he looked to see his friends looking at him with joy on their faces while noting the caution in their eyes. He couldn't blame them though, as he was a wild beast before becoming a mighty warrior, and that they had saw a little bit of his power. "How are you feeling?" Sakura asked as she soon approached her blonde teammate. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, just a little tired," Naruto answered as he saw a familiar face. "Oh hey, Kabuto, right?" Kabuto nodded as he then said, "While it is nice that you remembered me, we must keep moving if we want to beat the competition, or keep them from killing us." Before the group could move, Sasuke then began to stir awake as Kabuto's teammates carefully let go of the Uchiha to allow him to regain his balance. "Let go of me," Sasuke weakly growled out as he pushed himself away from Kabuto's teammates. "I don't need your help." Sasuke then approached his two teammates and stared at Naruto, studying him. "Where have you been?" the Uchiha asked as he continued to stare the blonde down. "I got caught up with something and I had gotten lost in this place with how thick these trees are," Naruto answered as he carefully studied Sasuke while trying to not reveal too much. The tension in the air created by the two was too thick as even a real knife couldn't cut, or even slightly mar the thickness in the air. "Come on you two," Sakura said as she carefully got in between the two. We're almost to the tower, and we don't need the both of you to be at each other's throats. You can settle this when we get there. Naruto and Sasuke gave each other one last stare down before turning away from each other, while Sakura couldn't help but let out a sigh, as while she was glad that her two teammates were up and about, she just wished that they'd at least get along. While it's great to see that your friends are okay, Kabuto said as he gave the area a quick look over, but my team and I should be going if we want a chance of becoming Chunin. Ja-any. The young man and his teammates soon vanished into the trees, and leaving the large group with their now conscious and silently quarreling duo, along with the numerous questions that were on their minds. I think Kabuto's team have a good idea, Shikamaru said as he turned his attention to everyone, but we should all stay together, as with numbers such as ours, no one wouldn't just attempt to try anything if they saw what they were up against. We need to reach the tower before any other team makes it. But do we have our scrolls? Naruto asked as he wasn't sure if his team had the scrolls they needed. You can have an extra of ours, Ino said as she tossed the scroll that Naruto's team needed. Now let's get going. Sakura caught the scroll and pocketed it before she and the others headed off on their quest towards their destination. Tower. The Sandaime waited inside with hidden anxiety, as the jonin of the remaining teams were also waiting for their students. But how could he relax if not only his once former student was out on the loose, but an out-of-control beast by the name of Naruto was out there as well? I don't know what's worse though, the elderly man thought as his mind was going miles a minute at either force. I can only pray that Orochimaru was responsible for Naruto's powers going out of control. The Sandaime was able to let out a sigh of relief to see not only a large group of genin walking into the area, but Naruto entering as himself and not as that Kendo Garurumon beast. Welcome, genin teams. The elderly man said with a smile on his face. You are all fortunate to have made it this far in the Chunin exams, and while you have passed this part of the test, we must still wait a few days for any other teams to make it. For now, you all deserve a much-needed rest. Hey Gigi, Naruto said as he waved towards the elderly man, who sighed happily at the nickname as he walked towards the blonde. I have something to ask you, alone. Actually, Sakura said as she felt nervous, there's something we all want to talk to both you and Naruto about as well. I'm not going to waste my time with this, Sasuke said as he walked off towards a different area, hoping to find a training area that he can have to himself. The Sandaime watched the lone Uchiha walk by and he couldn't help but sense something dark about him. Perhaps I should have a few ANBU or maybe Kakashi keep an eye on Sasuke, the elderly man thought as he led Naruto and Sakura, along with teams 8 and 6, through a hallway until they had reached a room. The Sandaime turned to face the other genin and was about to speak when Sakura suddenly said, We need you to look at Naruto, Hokage-sama. Something is wrong with him as he has all these weird seals on him. And do not worry about us revealing some of Naruto-san's secret, Shino said as he adjusted his sunglasses. We all have agreed to keep whatever we learn a secret. The elderly man was surprised by what was revealed to him as a new question formed in his mind. Did Naruto tell them about the legendary warriors? Or perhaps even about the Kyuubi? After looking at each face of the genin before him, the Sandaime let out a guarded sigh as he motioned everyone to enter and said, Nothing leaves this room. Everyone entered with the elderly man closing the door behind him and placing a few quick seals on the room. All right, Naruto, the Sandaime said as he approached said person, I need you to remove your shirt so that I can examine the seal. Without argument, Naruto removed both his shirt and jacket with a slight blush on his face as the seals on his body were revealed. After a quick examination, the Sandaime then said, I know how to remove this recent seal, but I need you to hold your arms straight up and remain absolutely still. The blonde did what was instructed as the tips of the elderly man's right hand began to glow an ominous purple like one of the seals on Naruto before he said, I'm now going to release that nasty seal on you, Naruto, and as a small heads up, this might hurt. Before another word was said, the Sandaime rammed his glowing hand into Naruto's stomach. The blonde doubled over as soon as the elderly man removed his hand while Shino and Sakura rushed over towards the blonde. You okay? Sakura asked as she helped her teammate onto his feet. Yeah, Naruto said as he looked down to see that the purple seal could no longer be seen. Least that seal messing with me is gone. Indeed, Ancient Greymon said from inside Naruto's mind, slightly startling the blonde. I and the others can no longer feel that seal's presence. Naruto smirked in victory. unknowingly sending a message to everyone that things were going to be alright. Now then, the Sandaime said with a serious tone that hid his own victorious smirk, since all of you had seen the seals on Naruto, you are probably wanting answers. Seeing everyone nod, the Sandaime glanced over towards Naruto as he then said, I think it is best that they hear from you first since we are talking about your secret, while I shall help fill in what details I can. Naruto nodded as he then let out a sigh to relieve some tension as he then said, you all know about the Kyuubi, right? Seeing his friends nod in confirmation, Naruto then asked, you know how the Yondaime had sacrificed himself to defeat it, right? There were a few hesitant nods as Sakura then spoke up, but the Yondaime couldn't exactly defeat a being like the Kyuubi since its living chakra. That is correct. The Sandaime said since this was a good time to jump in, the Yondaime had actually used a forbidden jutsu on the Kyuubi, at the cost of his life. Everyone was silenced at the idea of using your own life to use just one jutsu. While all jutsus required chakra, which could be counted as someone's life force, but this was something that took a person's life which would result in killing the user. The Yondaime had killed himself, Naruto said with a nervous tension on his face, in order to seal the Kyuubi inside of me. Most of the genin had slapped looks on their faces, with the exception of Shikamaru and Shino, as they looked at the elderly man who nodded in confirmation. I don't believe it, Kiba said with widened eyes. Naruto is. Naruto closed his eyes with expected anticipation, knowing how some of the villagers would act towards him. A freaking hero. That, however, he was not expecting. Kiba suddenly wrapped an arm around the blonde with a few victorious hollers and gave Naruto a light rub on his head with his knuckles before jumping around a little bit, while everyone else slowly smiled at what was happening before them. Once he was done, Kiba looked towards Naruto and the Sandaime as he asked, how come no one knows about our legendary hero? We need to catch up on some celebrations. If you consider beating me up a part of those celebrations, then let's. Naruto said with a sudden dark tone that stopped Kiba's celebration dead cold, while replacing everyone's faces with horrified looks. What? Kiba said he couldn't believe his ears. What are you talking about, man? Why should we beat you up just for saving the village? That, unfortunately, is what the villagers do not see. The Sandaime said with a regretful sigh. When I had revealed that the Yondaime had sealed the Kyuubi inside of Naruto, the villagers had demanded for his blood so that they could finish off the Kyuubi for the Yondaime. What? Kiba roared out in anger while a few shocked gasps were heard. That's total bullshit. Even I know that Naruto isn't the damned fox that's sealed inside of him. That's like saying Shino is a bug. No offense about that. Shino looked at his teammate and said, none taken as the villagers, including some of our own ninja, are too ignorant about the seal on Naruto. After that incident, the Sandaime then said as everyone's attention was turned towards him, I had placed a law stating that no one could reveal this piece of information about Naruto in hopes that he would have a peaceful life. Sadly, that might have made things worse. I have done everything that I can to help Naruto get the life that he deserves, but even then it wasn't much. No one said anything as they couldn't help but feel guilty about how they had treated the blonde before them. It was as if they had made kicking stray dogs that were down on their luck into a sport. Now that that's out of the way, Naruto said as he didn't feel comfortable about this topic, I think I should tell them about the other seal. The seal that allows me to transform into Lobomon and Kendogarurumon. The elderly man nodded in agreement as Naruto looked towards everyone and said, when Squad 7 started, I was left tied to a training post right after passing Kakashi-sensei's test. Sakura couldn't help but shrink a little as she saw the other genin looking at her with disappointment and slight disgust. From there, Naruto said as he regained everyone's attention, a ball of light had engulfed me and next thing I knew, I was inside of my mind where I met the legendary warriors. The blonde was silent for a moment before he then said, I think we should meet them in person. Just hold on to me and they'll pull us into my mind. Shrugging in acceptance, everyone placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and arms before darkness flashed into their eyes. Naruto's mindscape. Once the dizzying sensation was over, everyone looked around to find themselves in a dark sewer. EW. Ino said as she jumped onto Choji's shoulder, this place is a dump. A life like Naruto's can do that to a person's mind. Said a mysterious voice as everyone looked to see a giant cat with a human-like face and wings wearing black armor approaching them. Hey Gigi. Naruto said as he approached the large cat, much to everyone's slight confusion. How's everyone doing? They are doing alright and they are waiting to meet everyone. The large cat said as he looked at everyone, I am Ancient Sphinxman, one of the legendary warriors that represent one of the 10 elements of our world. I govern the power of darkness. If you would, please follow me and my grandson so that you can meet the others. After Ino reluctantly got off of Choji, everyone followed Ancient Sphinxman and Naruto through the blonde's mind until they reached a large room where 9 other creatures were waiting for them. One of them included a dragon with red armor and fiery wings. Whoa! Kiba said in awe as he and everyone studied the other creatures before them. Allow me to introduce you to everyone. Naruto said as he rushed up to the creatures, starting off with a woman with rainbow hair. This is Ancient Kazumi, warrior of wind. Ancient Kazumi gave everyone a polite wave as everyone saw just how beautiful she was. Ancient Mermaidman, warrior of water. Said warrior gave the group a playful wave as Ino couldn't help but marvel at her sapphire-like scales. Ancient Megatheriumon, warrior of ice. The giant ram nodded in a form of greeting the group before him. Ancient Beetleman, warrior of thunder. What's up, Shino? The giant beetle asked as he waved a claw in the air. Nice to see you again. It is nice to meet you too, great Beetle-sama. Shino said as he bowed towards the legendary warrior. Naruto chuckled a bit before he continued, This is Ancient Volcaman, warrior of earth. Nice to meet ya. Ancient Volcaman said as he flexed his arms to show off his toughness. Here we have Ancient Twizetman, warrior of steel. The mirror-like creature gave everyone a respectful bow as they could see the wisdom rolling off of him. Ancient Troyaman, warrior of wood. The giant, wooden horse kneeled before everyone as they gave him a curious look over. He was somehow the oddest of the group next to Ancient Twizetman. Ancient Garuramon, warrior of light. Said warrior just gave the group a gruff nod, showing just how serious he was as Kiba and Akamaru couldn't help but be inspired by him. And last but not least, Naruto said as he stood in front of the great dragon, Ancient Greyman, warrior of fire and leader of the legendary warriors. It is nice to meet you all in person, Ancient Greyman said as he bowed his head towards everyone. And we give you our gratitude for watching over our host, and my adoptive son. Seeing everyone's surprised, Ancient Kazumi then said, We've been watching over Naruto since we sealed ourselves inside of him, and we've been like family ever since. The Sandaime smiled with pride as he was quite glad that his surrogate grandson had been able to find a family through much of his hardship. Who would have thought Naruto could find such awesome guys like you? Kiba said as he and Akamaru continued to observe Ancient Garuramon. This is just awesome. Yeah, we are awesome like that. Ancient Volcaman said as he posed in a cool fashion, causing the girls to giggle at him despite how intimidating he looked. Ancient Twizetman let out a sigh as he ignored his colleague and said, We have also gifted Naruto with our power so that he may grow to not only be a great ninja and warrior, but a better person as well. We have placed some limitations on him, Ancient Troyaman added as he laid down on his legs. But even then he had made great progress with what elements we have granted him. But he is still not yet ready to handle the beast spirits of our power, as you have witnessed. Ancient Garuramon said as he crossed his arms, His mind hasn't been sharpened enough as even though he understands to not take them lightly, Naruto still isn't ready for the kind of power that a beast spirit possesses. Speaking of that power, Shikamaru said as a thought occurred to him, Naruto can use this power at any time, right? Sure he can, Sugar, Ancient Mermaidman said as she approached Naruto, but we're restricting him for this part of the Chunin exams. Originally it was to keep any of the beast spirits from trying to take control of him, Ancient Sphinxman said as he was seated next to Ancient Greyman, easily being dwarfed by the gigantic dragon, but now it's more of a test to see just how well Naruto had grown. I believe that we have properly been introduced, Ancient Greyman said as he looked at everyone. I think that we shouldn't keep you too long as you all must make preparations for what is to come. Everyone looked at the dragon and nodded before vanishing, leaving just the legendary warriors to themselves. So how do you think things will play out? Ancient Kazumi asked as she turned towards the warrior of fire. We can only wait and see, Ancient Greyman said as he looked off into the distance, wondering himself how things will go for the blonde as well. The end.
Watch exclusive 18+ stories every day featuring Naruto, Deku, and Luffy. Plus uncensored NSFW artwork of the girls from each story. Available only on my Patreon. Link in the description.